pull the chair up. Nice close, yeah, because we got to talk about what's actually happening in the Canadian real estate market right now. What if I told you that home prices in Canada weren't declining? Well, they are, but they're not. Let me explain. Okay, I know that's confusing. Just stick with me, watch the whole video here, because if you live in Toronto, Vancouver, yeah, the headlines are right. Home prices and sales are down. But basically everywhere else in Canada, that couldn't be further from the truth. Over the past few months, the Victoria Real Estate Board has continued to call their market balanced and stable. And honestly, that's not spin. It's a fairly accurate way to describe the current conditions in Victoria. Home sales continue to be sluggish, but better than the previous 2 years and trending up right now. The good news for home buyers is that both new listings and active inventory are above normal typical levels for this time of year, meaning buyers have more choice and potentially a little bit more negotiation power with sellers. Then how is it possible that home prices are increasing and what should be considered more of a balance to a slightly leaning buyer's market? Well, it's the spring market. That typically happens that prices increase in the spring, even if overall we see prices decline throughout the year. When I was talking with real estate agents in Vancouver, I said to all of them, boy, it sure seems, looking at the numbers, things have really slowed down in your market. And pretty much all of them said, yeah, no kidding. Clearly, with how much economic and political uncertainty there is in the world right now, both buyers and sellers aren't really interested in looking at making transactions. We've seen obviously sales way down, but new listings, that continues to shrink versus that 5-year gap I keep track of. So sellers aren't really jumping into the market that much either right now. And I anticipate until we see a little bit more stability in both politics and economics, we'll probably see the Vancouver real estate market sluggish on both fronts for a while. If you are a home buyer in Vancouver, you haven't had this much inventory to choose from in a really long time. And what I think is really interesting in what should be considered one of the strongest so-called buyer's markets statistically that we've had in Vancouver in quite a long time, buyers aren't actually making purchases right now. When looking at the Calgary real estate market, it's important to take into some consideration, some context, and look past the headlines because yes, sales are down in comparison to last year and the last couple of years, which have been some of the busiest years Calgary's ever had. In fact, 22, 23, and 24 were the 3 busiest starts ever that Calgary's had in a year. This year is the 4th busiest start to the year. The single family market is still a tight one, but they are seeing a little more inventory, even still less than 2 months of inventory, while townhouses are a more balanced market, but they did see prices increase about 2% year over year, not up to the highs they were last year though. It's when you look at the condo market in Calgary that you see the largest year over year decline of all property types. The Toronto and Vancouver buyers have basically abandoned the Calgary condo market right now. And of the 4,000-ish houses for sale right now in Calgary, a good chunk of those are these apartment style condos. So far this year, the Edmonton real estate market has seen home prices increase $10,000 every single month. And really the only thing that's kind of keeping things in check to some small degree is that inventory isn't as critically low as it is in other prairie real estate markets. And thankfully, at least new listings have somewhat kept pace, but months of inventory now drops below 2 months, so we're sliding deeper into seller's market in Edmonton. If you're looking at how long it takes things to sell in Edmonton, no property type is taking more than a month to sell, and interestingly enough, it's semi-detached that's selling the quickest at about 20 days right now. But you also have to remember that this stat tracks from when a property is listed to when it's a firm sale. If there's any sort of conditional offer made, that's going to take typically 5 to 15 days. So for the most part, houses of all property types in Edmonton are selling in less than 2 weeks, many of them much faster than that. If you just quickly glance at the stats and see home sales are down, you might think, hey, Regina real estate market might be cooling off, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. As I said last month, if you are thinking about selling, give me a call. I now have 17 buyers that are struggling to find a home to buy. In just the last couple of weeks, those buyers have been beat out by offers between $50,000 and $105,000 over the asking price. And these were not properties that were purposely priced low in order to drive bids. There's just that much buyer demand right now. There was even a house in Regina with a wood basement, and if you're from Regina or know the soil conditions, you know how much of a problem that can be. That went conditionally sold in the first weekend on the market. Yes, home sales are down in Saskatoon, and no, it's not because buyers are all of a sudden hitting the brakes. As a home buyer in Saskatoon, you need to be prepared. Agents are telling me they are seeing buyers make offers with shorter condition timelines or removing conditions like home inspections and financing conditions entirely right now. And houses are selling $50,000 to $100,000 over the asking price. So as a buyer, you have to try to not get too emotional, try to win a house, make sure that you absolutely love the house before you get into a bidding war. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine in Winnipeg, and he was saying his agents are darn near in tears because they can't sell any houses. And no, it's not the lack of demand. It's because there is so much demand that buyers are competing, and these agents buyers are losing out multiple times in a row on offers. And trust me, I understand that feeling right now. It is really tough in Regina too. After March was very busy, agents were feeling maybe in April, at least when I was talking with them in early April, that things might slow down because of the federal election. Well, as of the time we're recording this in mid-April, that has not materialized yet. What might slow down the market just a little bit is, of course, the Jets being in the playoffs. I don't think many buyers are out looking at houses on nights the Jets are playing. Well, it wasn't just the weather in the Toronto real estate market. The Toronto Real Estate Board actually put it well. The market there is paralyzed. Buyers aren't buying and sellers aren't selling. This past March saw the fewest number of homes sell in a March since the late 1990s. And of course, Toronto is significantly bigger than what it was back in the 1990s. In fact, the 5,000 homes sold just this past month was a third of what we saw in 2021, when over 15,000 homes sold in just March alone. In fact, that 15,000 sales is more than the entire year so far in 2025. There's been about 12,000 homes sold so far in Toronto. The condo market, which was once the beating speculative heart of the Toronto real estate market, is now a boat anchor sinking the entire ship. When you're looking at single family homes close to the city, that market's a little more stable, less so the further out you go from the city center. So should you be buying a house in Toronto right now? Well, the answer is a little bit complicated. I'll always say, don't try to time the market. You're probably not going to succeed at that. You should instead be focusing on whether it is the right time for you and your personal situation to be making a purchase or not. And if it is for your own personal needs, try to find the best house and the best deal you can right now. The Ottawa Real Estate Board put on a brave face for this month's press release here. I'm going to read two of the lines specifically from it. Ottawa housing market shows stability as spring momentum builds. Ottawa housing market relatively stable with sales activity slightly lower than the same period last year. Except last year, this time, was the second slowest March Ottawa had in the last decade. Not really much of a high benchmark when you're below the second worst month. Understandably so, there's a ton of uncertainty in the Ottawa real estate market. We're currently in an election, and elections typically slow down real estate markets, especially in government towns. And then, of course, with how much economic uncertainty is also in the world right now, these two factors are absolutely playing in both buyers and sellers' decision-making process right now. I don't blame them. Looking at prices in Ottawa by individual property types starts telling kind of a different story. Single-family homes are up about 3%. Townhouses are also up about 3%, but apartment-style condos are down 4%. And now that we're into a full-blown election, I do anticipate when we're doing this video next month, we're going to continue to see a sluggish month of sales. We'll have to wait and see if there's any sort of uptick after the election is over. The Montreal real estate market has been really heating up, and this is especially true in that $500,000 to about $1.5 million price point. Buyers don't seem to be really fazed by the tariff threat, and they're taking advantage of some lower interest rates available right now. Agents are telling me they're seeing a lot more bidding wars, and houses have been selling between $50,000 and $100,000 over the asking price in some markets. So I asked agents in Montreal, what do home buyers need to know about the market right now if they're looking to make a purchase? The most obvious one, make sure you are pre-approved, but also be prepared to act quickly, because we are seeing those houses selling quickly right now, and as I said, over asking. Get to know the neighborhood that you're looking to make a purchase in so you understand the specific market conditions for that neighborhood. Don't get discouraged if you lose out on one, because that's happening a fair bit to buyers right now. And if you're a buyer looking to make an offer subject to the sale of your current home, that's basically off the table as sellers just really aren't looking at those offers anymore. When you just look at the data for the Halifax real estate market, it's really tough to evaluate things. Over the last 5, 6, 7 years, they've had record high sales and record low levels of inventory that is so far beyond the normals that it skews all of my 5-year averages, and it's really hard to get any sort of sense of what's normal anymore in the Halifax real estate market. If you're a buyer in the Halifax real estate market and looking to spend somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000, that is the busiest segment of the market right now, where you're seeing the most buyer competition and multiple offers. You're seeing on average that homes are selling about 101% of asking price across Halifax right now. Basically 50% selling over ask right now. And that over ask bid typically ends up between about $20,000 and $30,000 over the asking price.